Hi guys, as you can see, here I am at the poultry farm, and that means that today's episode is going to be on poultry farming. Today we are bringing you an episode of debeaking. What does it mean to debeak? Stay tuned as we bring you this episode. Welcome back. As I said, today we are going to be talking about debeaking. So what does it mean? If you're an old poultry farmer, you're probably used to this. But if you're new and thinking about starting poultry farm, then debeaking is one of the process you're going to be doing. Our chicks are ready to be debeaked. And what does it mean? Debeaking is the process of cutting the tips of their lips. Right, so you cut them and you cut off the tips. So before you do debeaking, what are the tools that you need? So one of them is what I have here called a cutter. So mostly your local veterinary can do it for you, but if you have done it a couple of times and are a good observer, you could do it yourself. But if you're not sure, please contact your local veterinary and he will come in and do it for you. So why do we even do debeaking? So at a certain stage, when the chicks get to, they start poking themselves, and therefore there is the need for you to cut their mouth. Secondly, because they are in their 13th week and we are expecting to see eggs in their 16 weeks, we tend to cut off their mouth so that they don't get into the habit of poking the eggs. You know, eggs is where your profit is coming from, therefore you need to protect it. So we cut it in their 13th week. Depending, some people will do their 14th week. We have done on our 14th week. And when you cut, they actually don't start gaining energy and eating as soon as possible. So we tend to cut it at 13 weeks to give ourselves 3 weeks for them to re-establish, eat properly before they start laying. Because you know with chicks, if they are not eating well, they cannot lay better. So we cut it at 13 weeks so that they will get used, their mouth will be healed, and in the 13th week, it's going to even be a little bit harder for them to eat because their mouth is going to be sore. But then they're going to learn that they can be using their mouth to poke everything they see. So by this way, we are able to also save the eggs that we are expecting them to lay in the next 3 weeks, which is going to be from our 16th week going if we are lucky. So that is why we're going to be doing this debeaking. So come with me as we do it. But don't forget, debeaking process takes a lot of labor. So you will need a lot of team members to be able to do it, because you will need to catch them one by one as your veterinary or your professional cutter is cutting it. So please stay tuned as we go in and see how the process is. I told you it was going to be labor intensive. As you can see, it wasn't an easy job at all, and I actually have bruises from their nails and from them poking me whilst catching them. I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody. You could see Eric, our cameraman, even getting involved, like all hands on deck. So if you're going to be doing debeaking and you're looking at 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 birds, it's going to take you some time. So please start early. Make sure you feed them enough. You give them enough food, enough water, maybe a couple of hours before you actually start. Because once you start, it's going to take you a while. And that length of time, they need to have food, right? And especially knowing that when you cut, because of the bleeding, as you can see in the video, they are not going to be able to eat right away as much as they need, so they need a lot of food. So make sure you plan your food and drink. If there is any medication you need to give them before the debeaking, because after it, it's going to slow all their intake or every activity of the mouth very low. So you want to plan this ahead of time. It was fun, but it was stressful. Make sure you get yourself some gloves. I didn't have my gloves, and that's why I have all these marks here. But get yourself some gloves. Good. Get yourself some mask, because there is a lot of dust as you're catching them and they flying around. It brings a lot of dust. So prepare yourself very well before you go into this process. In the whole lifespan of the chicks, you will do this once, but there are other vaccinations that you're going to do that will need you to cut them before you vaccinate them. So this is something you're going to do about 4 to 5 times in the life of the chicks. So make sure you're prepared for it and your team is aware and you know what is involved. So now that we have debeaked them, what is next? So as you can see, there's a lot of bleeding, which is very sad, but now they are feeding, they need to eat. So we are going to give them some vitamins as drugs for them to take. And then secondly, we're going to give them pen slip for the pain. So because of the bleeding and the wound, for it to heal faster. So that is what we're going to give them right away, and then give them food. Now we are expecting to see a slow process of eating in a couple of 3 to 4 days, and hopefully with this medication they will be able to get back to their feet within this week. Then they will have another 2 weeks to be able to fully recover and start laying eggs. And that is why we do the debeaking. So we are going to be keeping our eyes on them and see how they are doing. So thank you very much for making the time and going through this process with us. I hope it's helpful. And if you're a poultry farmer and have more experience, and from the video, if there's anything you want to contribute, please don't hesitate to write a comment or reach out through WhatsApp. But thank you very much, guys. And as I said, this is a learning process for us, and we are here just to share our experience with you. And if there is something you can take from us, why not? And if there is something you can teach us, we are happy to also learn from you. So thank you very much for making the time and watching this video.